This is Ellie from University of Southern California. Welcome to the series of USC graduate program event, which will help you to learn cutting-edge knowledge in different academic areas and inspire you to think beyond. Today's webinar is the 133rd USC event, and it's also our first online event in 2024. Welcome. I would like to express my heartfelt appreciation to our audiences. Thank you very much for your interest and support for our online events throughout 2023, and also for joining our first event in 2024. It's particularly wonderful to see all of you today. And for this special day, we've planned an event, even more special topic to make it more meaningful. Yes, today's webinar is an information session about MS in Mathematical Finance program. This is also our first mathematical finance event so far. There are many firsts on today. So this webinar is made possible by our guest speakers. It's our honor to have guest speakers, Professor Jin Ma and Professor Steve Sapra, delivering speeches today. And let me briefly introduce our guest speakers. Jin Ma is the Professor of Mathematics and the Director of the Mathematical Finance Program, Mathematics. And Steve Sapra is the Professor of the Practice of Economics and the Director of the Mathematical Finance Program, Economics. Welcome, Professor Jin and Professor Steve. And before starting the speech, dear audiences, we will have a Q&A section after the speech. Whether you are joining this webinar via Zoom or through our live streaming platforms, please feel free to leave your questions in the chat box at any time. We will try our best to get as many questions as we can. And kindly remind to our Zoom audience that this webinar will be recorded. So please mute yourself during the presentation for the good webinar quality. Thank you very much. And now I will pass it over to our guest speakers. Welcome, Professor Jin and Professor Steve.
Okay, so welcome to the USC Math Finance program webinar. This is the APEC webinar. My name is Jin Ma. I'm the director of the USC Math Finance program. I'm from Math department. With me is Professor Sapra from Econ department. He's the co-director, and we will both of us will try to give you a brief introduction of the Math Finance program, and we'll tell you what the structure of the problem and the purpose of the program. Could you next page, please? Yeah, okay. So USC Math Finance program was established around 2000, so which is quite a long time ago. And at first, it was like aiming at having students are both professional, which means not necessarily resident students. They could be taking evening classes or something. And also with on-campus students. And around 2007, 2008, we redesigned the curriculum to make it more structured. And from that point on, we, for the, almost 17 years, the curriculums are much more structured and almost, although with some updates and minor changes, the structure is as we see today. So the purpose of the program is to provide the rigorous training for to produce students, okay, with the Master of Science degree who have rigorous foundation in economic theory and mathematics skills, and who understand the modeling of the financial markets. It is a joint effort between the math department and the econ department. And we particularly focus on students who wish to pursue a very quantitatively oriented career in the global financial market sector. And the program actually is particularly designed for the graduates, undergraduate students, or even, some of them with already postgraduate the degrees. In the quantitative, kind of quantitative related the fields such as math, applied math, physics, and engineering, or even some business-oriented programs, but with kind of strong mathematical background. So now at this point, I think the term strong mathematical background is kind of vague. So let me make it more specific. So next page, please. So when we review the applications, we usually looking at your transcripts or your knowledge structures. We were looking at these four main areas of, basic knowledge. One is analysis. Analysis, you can consider it as a calculus, okay? But I said here, calculus plus, meaning that we're actually looking for a little bit more than calculus. So if some of you took the course like real analysis, you know what I mean, okay? Or mathematical analysis. So it is calculus, but a little bit more than calculus. But I think in general, a good calculus background would be sufficient. The second one is linear algebra. The third one is probability theory, because a large part of the knowledge base for the modern finance is probability, actually. If you have a background on probability plus some statistics, that will be very helpful. The fourth one is differential equation. ODE meaning ordinary differential equation. We don't actually require to see any partial differential equation or more on the differential equation side, but we do hope to see you have some knowledge on differential equation. So these four categories are essentially the things that we're looking for. It doesn't mean that you have these four, you thought you have the courses on these four categories, you will be admitted. It's of course just because you have these four courses, is not necessarily enough. But if you without that, you don't have those, it will be a little bit hard to go through the program comfortably. The other requirement that we usually look at is programming skill. Because of the design of the curriculum, we don't have a particularly training for you to gain the programming skill from this program. We require that you already have it. Now, the one thing that we now explicitly require is Python. In the past, we actually required the C or C++, but now we don't we say that the C or C++ language is designed if you have it on your resume. Many of you actually have, many other skills that will all be helpful. But Python is the one that we actually required to have. Next, please. Next page, please. Yeah. So let me spend a little bit of time telling you our program will provide you what kind of knowledge. The program, like I said, it has been structured now quite rigorously. First is the course structure. Overall, we have like 10 courses. Okay. There are three. The courses are divided into the econ courses, math courses, and courses from the Marshall School. We have 3 math courses, and all meaning the courses offered by the math department. They are in stochastic analysis as the basic knowledge, and also math finance, and the simulation part of math finance. The core courses means they are required, so you have to take them. Each course in the each math course is 3 credits, so it's 9 credits. And there are 2 econ courses, 4 credits each. One is on financial economics. The other one is econometrics, which is time series analysis. The most dynamic part of the curriculum is the elective courses. Okay, the elective courses. There are 4 of them. In principle, you take each elective course from each department. One is from math, one from econ, and one from called FBE, which is in Marshall. It's in business school. From math, you can have statistics and numerical analysis, or the combination of the, for example, we will have a new course on machine learning in quantitative finance. You can consider it as a statistics, and also, you can consider it numerical analysis or whatever. And you can also have econ elective, which could be big data, econometrics, and also some type of financial economics. Actually, Professor Sapra can tell you more about that if in the more pointed correspondence to the knowledge that you will it is required. I say this is the most dynamic part, is because that the required courses are usually it's kind of fixed, but the elective courses changes depending on the availability of the instructors, and also the development of the technical aspect in the financial market, and also you have a lot of choices to choose based on your interests. So I think this actually the fixed courses plus the elective courses makes the knowledge that we offer quite dynamic. There is one course, this called the summative experience course. Also we call it direct research. Is the part that I would like to say a few words. Usually, a graduate program requires a thesis, but for the math finance, we don't have a thesis requirement. But we use this one direct research course to somehow summarize your what you have learned, and as also reward to yourself, and also as a report to the graduate school. This direct research course is usually can be fulfilled in three ways. One is the internship, for example. You can find the internship opportunity, and then in the end, you will submit the report. If you cannot find the internship, then you can also go through a sequence of colloquiums, and we have what we call the math finance colloquium every semester, and we invite many speakers to come give professional talks. So you can sit through every talks, and then in the end you choose a talk to write a report on it. And we also have a something similar to a on-campus internship, which means we form a team called the algorithm training practice, and supervised by a faculty member. But in any case, there are ways to do a very interesting direct research course to as a thesis. So overall, we have 10 courses, and the total units will be 31 to 32, depending on our new calculation. Of course, it is based on the actual courses are taken, because some courses are 3 credits, some courses are 4 credits. The length of the program by design is 18 months. Many of the students are able to finish it. That's 3 semesters. But also, it is not unusual people choose to stay for 2 years, because usually if you are international students, for example, your visa is available. Your visa actually has 2 years. So many of the students choose to stay for another semester. But if in that case, you probably should tell let us know, then we have to make arrangements. So this is possible. There is there is a point that it's usually easy to miss, is that there is a minimum GPA requirement to graduate, which is 3.0. 3.0, which means average is a B. So this is not a particularly difficult requirement to meet, but there are cases that if you don't have, if you have an overall GPA becomes like a 2.987 or something, you still cannot graduate. But average B, meaning if you get a C, you have to get an 8 to offset it. Okay, let me put it this way. It is not difficult to fulfill, but you still have to pay attention to it to graduate. But okay, I think this is true for every program. So if you are interested in the exact detail, the course that we offered, you can look at the website, and which is listed here. So if I don't know if you can click, but it's easy to find out online. So next page, please. So maybe by the description so far, you see that's the math finance program is kind of different from the traditional MBA or even the Master of Financial Engineering. So here are the main differences. The MBA programs are usually not quantitative enough. We are focusing on produce the graduates who actually can take on more technically demanding jobs in the financial industry. With the training from the math finance program, you can actually do better in the job seeking when people are looking at this, that there are jobs that are really require technical skills. Our training are more focused versus more as an MBA program, which tend to be broader in nature. And the difference between our programs, the curriculum in our programs in FBE, is that we have special components in economics. So this part I will leave it to Professor Sapra. He spent many years in his career working in the industry. He's also an educator. He taught in Marshall School and also in econ. So he has a much better view to tell you why this kind of knowledge is useful, and he will tell you, the potential for having these kind of skills to perform better in the financial industry. So I will yield to Steve.
Thank you so much, Jin, and good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for attending our webinar. As Jin mentioned, my name is Steve Sapra. Just a quick background on me is, as Jin mentioned, I've spent the majority of my career actually working in industry. I started my career working, building equity factor risk models. I then spent 10 years working as a quantitative equity portfolio manager, trading long-short equity portfolios and derivatives-based portfolios. And then I spent the last decade or so at PIMCO in Southern California, in the Los Angeles area, working on asset allocation research. I've always kept a foot in academia the whole time, so I've taught in an adjunct capacity, both in our business school as well as our economics department. But I decided this year to join the faculty full-time, and have partnered with Jin as co-director of the USC Math Finance program. Just one comment I would make about the previous slide about differentiating between Masters of Financial Engineering programs and what we do. Jin touched on this a little bit already, but the difference really is in the economics training. And I've hired a lot of MFEs over the years, and I'm very familiar with the educational background that they've attained. And I think in my experience, there's a lack of economics in these MFE programs. And there are certain jobs in finance that you could consider to some degree an engineering job. And the most common job that is more engineering in nature is pricing derivatives. That is, I would say, fundamentally engineering at the end of the day. There's not a lot of economics in that. But most of the jobs are not that. Most of the jobs require, I think, some economics training to be really successful and to think more broadly about markets and about building models. And I do think the economics training is quite valuable in that regard. Next slide, please. So I'll start out with a quote from Nobel laureate Robert Merton. Maybe some of you have heard of Robert Merton. He won the Nobel Prize, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago, for the Black-Scholes-Merton option pricing equation. And this quote is from 2012, coming off the global financial crisis of 08 and 09. And Merton said, I'm actually really optimistic about the future of quants. The industry is more technical than ever, and there is as much need to understand the risks in the system as ever. And that was about 10 years ago that he said that. And I couldn't agree with that statement more. And I would say that the demand for quantitative skills has only continued to grow over the past 10 years. We really have seen a really strong migration in the private sector toward valuing quantitative skills. I remember when I first started in industry over 20 years ago, I mentioned I was working on building equity factor models. And I felt like at that time, I had a very unique set of skills that really differentiated me from a lot of people out there in the business. I would not feel that way today. So factor risk models are commonplace. Really, any quant should be able to build a factor risk model. And now kind of fairly junior people can build these models. So the industry has really evolved and become significantly more quantitative over the last 10 or 20 years. I would say that the financial sector, whether it's in the US or globally, is a very big sector that spans a lot of different types of jobs and roles. And in fact, I would say the majority of those roles are actually not that quantitative in nature. So an MBA degree or even an undergraduate degree may be sufficient to do a lot of those jobs. But the subset of jobs that are quantitative in nature have become more and more quantitative. The quantitative rigor has increased at a rapid pace, and the pool of those jobs has really grown as well. So it's still, I would say, a minority of the financial sector, but it's a growing minority. And within that minority, the level of skills that are demanded are becoming greater and greater. And so it is true that there's a much bigger supply of employees, of graduates who can fulfill these jobs, who satisfy these jobs. You can just see that through the growth of the MFE programs, primarily in the US, but also globally. But the demand for these skills has grown as well. So the pool is just getting bigger in general. Next slide, please. So what are some of the skills that employers are looking for in the workplace today? You know, if you're going to be successful in the quantitative finance field, you need to understand how to do at least some of these things and contribute. And so things like understanding portfolio construction techniques. You know, when is something like a mean variance optimization appropriate? When is it not? When do you need to take into account tail risk measures, for example, if you're using nonlinear instruments in a portfolio? Having those skills is very valuable. And not all portfolios that are implemented are optimized in the traditional algorithmic sense. But portfolio optimization, even for those companies that aren't purely quantitative, they still use models, optimized portfolios oftentimes as a starting point. My firm actually did that. We would build optimal portfolios, and then we would qualitatively deviate away from those allocations. Certainly understanding risk measurement, the ability to build risk measures, obviously going beyond just historical standard deviation. You need to understand how to build forward-looking estimates of risk. You need to understand what the various tail risk measures are and how to utilize them. These things are all quite important. Back testing. It seems like every quant in the industry at some point in their career is going to conduct a back test. That may sound easy. It's probably not one of the hardest things in the world to do, but there are certainly some nuances and subtleties that you need to be aware of when you're doing back testing to do it appropriately. Econometrics and time series analysis, I would say these skills have always been there. There's always been a demand for people with good statistical skills, with good statistical backgrounds, who can run regressions, build time series models, and so on and so forth. Pricing derivatives, I mentioned that briefly. That's a very obvious one. That is, I would say, primarily an engineering job, but there's huge demand for understanding how to price derivatives in the industry. And then Jin touched on the last one already, which is the importance of Python. And Python really is the standard programming language in the industry today. It used to be MATLAB, I would say. I cut my teeth on MATLAB. I spent most of my career programming in MATLAB, and really have only made the transition to Python in the last maybe 3 or so years. They're very similar, but Python really is the language you need to know. And so we focus on Python in the program. And really, in order to get hired in industry, you need to demonstrate that you are at least reasonably proficient in Python. Next slide, please. So in our financial mathematics master's program, we offer a wide array of courses. This is just a small sample of those courses. There's a much bigger set of courses that you can take if you join the program, which you can see on our website. But this is useful because you can see how we have courses that are really appropriate for different types of jobs. And obviously there's not a one-to-one correspondence between jobs and courses. But you can see that for some of the most important jobs in finance, we have a course for that. So if you're interested in working as a quantitative portfolio manager, which is what I did earlier in my career, I spent about 10 years doing that. We have a course called Quantitative Investing, which is a Python-based quant finance course in the Marshall School of Business. If you're interested in doing a more of a research type job, well, there's a lot of classes we have that will help train you and build your research skills. Econ 514, empirical finance, is a really good one. Risk management, as I mentioned previously, is a job that is typically associated with quants. Things like asset selection, stock selection, that can be a quant job, or it may not be a quant job. Risk management is almost exclusively a quant job. The technicalities of risk management, I would say, are significantly more complex than asset selection. And so quant skills are demanded in risk management. And we have a course called Management of Financial Risk, also in the Marshall School of Business, which can help train students to work in that area. Derivatives. We offer a number of courses that deal with derivatives. One of them is Jin Ma's course, Math 530, which is called Mathematical Finance. The course that I teach, Econ 577, also dedicates about 4 or 5 weeks to pricing derivatives. If you're interested in a data science job, doing data science and analytics, these jobs, there's a lot of jobs in the finance industry that are not necessarily directly involved in investing, but do demand data science skills. And so we offer a course called Econ 570, Big Data Econometrics, which is a very popular course that is available to our students. If you're interested in working in trading, or market making, or high frequency trading, time series analysis, Econ 515 is a good class. And then if you're interested in working in crypto, machine learning, Math 599, this is a new class that we'll be offering next year. I think Jin briefly mentioned it, but it's a graduate level course dedicated entirely to machine learning. So as I mentioned, this isn't a one-to-one deal. You know, each of these jobs demands a whole set of skills, but we do offer a broad range of classes that are very effective at training for different types of jobs in the industry. Next slide, please. So we've had a number of our graduates move on to successful careers and internships. This is just a set of those that we're listing. It's certainly not all of them. But you can see there with some fairly prestigious firms and some fairly prestigious titles. So we've placed candidates at Citigroup, a quantitative analyst and a sales and trading intern. We've placed at Goldman Sachs. We placed a quantitative strategist there. HSBC, we had a student do an internship in sales and trading. Bank of America Merrill Lynch, the global co-head of quantitative strategies, is a USC graduate. And we also have placed a quantitative financial analyst there as well. We placed a quantitative risk analyst at Ares Management, which is a private equity firm, an internship with Clock Tower Group, and a statistical management intern with Taiping Life Insurance Company. So there's internships out there. There's big demand for internships. They are competitive, but if you have the right skills and good grades, the likelihood of landing one of these internships, I think, is quite high. Last slide, please. So you've met myself. You've met Jin. So we both oversee the Math Finance Master's Program together. Myself from the economics side, Jim from the mathematics side. This is our contact information. So you can certainly, if anybody wants to email us directly, this is our contact information. If you have questions or want to reach out, please feel free to do so. But I would encourage you probably to start first with Susan Sath, who is our amazing program administrator. If you have kind of basic questions about the application process, requirements, whatever, Susan is probably the best person to start with, and she's very responsive. So reach out to Susan, but also, as I mentioned, feel free to reach out to Jin or myself if you have any questions. I don't know if this PowerPoint presentation will be distributed or not, but if it is, you can click on this link here to access the USC Math Finance website. If not, it's easily found on the web. So that concludes our presentation on our Math Finance program. I think now we're happy to open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Thank you very much to professors. It is a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Professor Jin and Professor Steve, for your detailed and kind presentation. And I'm sure that our audiences have gotten many important information about our mathematical finance program. From now, I'm starting from the first question in our Zoom chat box. Yes, thanks, professors, for the very insightful information. My question to you is, what role do you envision this program playing in the future job market, particularly with the advanced technologies in place now? Thank you. Maybe Professor Steve, could you answer for this question? Thank you.
Sure.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one. Well, I think it's basically what I mentioned before. Look, the industry has become much more quantitative. The level of talent is significantly higher than it was 5 or 10 years ago. And this is an advanced program. It's a technical program. And you're going to learn a lot of mathematics skills, you're going to learn a lot of economic skills, and you're going to get very technical training. So certainly the person who asked the question is right. The industry is moving in a more and more increasingly technologically advanced way. And the types of skills and the types of training that our program provides, I think really are well suited for the future job market.
Thank you. And the next question is, what type of students' education background that you think would be best fit for your program? Thank you. Maybe Professor Jin, could you please answer for
That's a very good question. Actually, I already mentioned the although the program is some of the courses are, obviously have a very strong math flavor. Our students are not only from math educational background. It's not like a math major or applied math major as is a necessary background. We actually, I said we all the majors that have quantitative or more quantitatively like a physics, okay, engineering, or could be sufficient for this program. I mean, I think of course the requirement I already mentioned. We have these 4 courses that we usually look at. One is the analysis, which is a little bit more than calculus, but okay, let's just say calculus. Then linear algebra, probability, and differential equation. If you have those courses, then that's in it. That's enough. Of course, there are competitions, and then we are looking at applications with overall knowledge structure that are all the courses that you have taken on in undergraduate study. But I wouldn't specify saying that you have to have a math major or something. But these 4 courses will probably be the best focus point if you are thinking about going to the program.
Thank you. And the next question is, what English requirement the program have? Should I have GRE or GMAT score? Thank you.
As a foreign student, you have to have TOEFL. GRE will be helpful, but it's not required in recent years, especially after pandemic. But if you have a GRE score, it will be helpful. It's just strengthen your application. Let me put it this way. It's not required GRE at this point. Maybe it will be required again in the future, but since pandemic, because of those technical reasons, we don't require, USC doesn't require GRE anymore for master programs. But the foreign, as a foreign student, you have to have a TOEFL score that is higher than 90, I believe. But you can also apply through the International Academy, which we call the pre-master program that Terence actually knows better. Yeah, you can have a pre-master program that if you don't meet the language requirement temporarily, but there are ways to. The USC also have a lot of those kind of ways to help you. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This question is, thank you for the information. The length of the course is 18 months. Is it possible to graduate in 2 years? Thank you.
Yes, like I said, because the visa is valid for 2 years. So many of the students choose to stay for 2 years to have the more opportunities looking for jobs in the US. However, there is a catch. If you finish all the required credits, like 30 or 32 units, if you finish that, you have to graduate. So if you finish everything within 18 months, then you have to graduate. So you have to plan. You have to plan if you want to stay for 2 years, you have to plan ahead. Don't go too fast. But if you have a plan, you can always let us know. The program will help you make the good plan for stay for 2 years.
Thank you. And regarding the on-campus internship, what kind of work will students do? How many words requirement for the directed research? Thank you.
How many required?
Words. I think this student want to ask the length of the paper of the research.
Okay. The report is usually 7 to 8 pages. It is not the creative research thesis or paper. It's a literature search. So if you have an internship, for example, you have to have an internship report anyway. Every internship requires a report. You can use that report as the final report for the course. But if you sit through the colloquium, then you find a talk, for example, a professional talk. Then you do the literature search. You write a report on the like a book report. It is not a creative research report, but it's a literature search report. Also 7 to 8 pages. If you the on-campus internship is it's not a rigorous the rigorous description. It's just the name for it. The name of this practice is called the algorithm trading practice. There is the faculty member in the department who actually organize a few students, depending on how many, with the similar programming skills, and they assign you, they help you to do some projects using not the real data, but some kind of data that you can get free from the internet, and just do some trading practice. So that's just one of the options that you can fulfill. In the end, you will write a report again, like 7 to 8 pages. It's like a practice, trading practice type of thing.
The question in Zoom chat box is, Professor, you mentioned the difference between your program and financial engineering. It seems both programs target the same type of students. Could you please explain the different outcomes of these two programs? This will help me make a better choice regarding which one to apply for. I think this question is for our Professor Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. It's a good question. And I can see why it may be a bit confusing. You're certainly right that the set of skills that we look for are basically the same as what an MFE program would look for. So the technical training, calculus, linear algebra, probability, statistics, differential equations. MFE programs are going to look for similar skills and backgrounds. I would say the main difference is a philosophical one. So if you look at the majority of MFE programs out there, they tend to approach the training more from an engineering perspective. This is what we call, for those of you who are familiar with this, the Q measure, the risk neutral measure. But the reality is that we operate in the real world, and most jobs are not dealing in the risk neutral measure. They're dealing in the real world measure, real world probabilities, real world probability distributions. And once you're in that world, you're really not in an engineering world anymore. Finance really can't be distilled down to a set of equations like derivatives pricing can, for the most part. And that's where the economics training comes in, and that's really the differentiator. So the rigorous training in economics, in topics like asset pricing theory, decision-making under uncertainty, understanding how risk premia might be, ex-ante risk premia might be estimated in the real world. These are things that you tend to see less of in the MFE programs because they're just so much more engineering focused. And so from my perspective, our program gives you a broader training. And it's a training that I think will allow our graduates to think more creatively and bigger picture as they work in the industry. So that's really, I mean, there's a lot of similarities there too, no question. But I would say that's really how you should think about our program versus a traditional MFE program.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, after graduation, how long can I stay at US?
If you, after graduation, you usually have an OPT period. The OPT period, if you have a job, then the OPT period, it could be pretty long. But if you have to have a job. So this is quite tricky. I want to say 6 months if you don't have anything that you have to leave. If you are thinking of my suggestions, you don't, at this point, maybe not focusing on this kind of question, because if you come to the US and you try your best, then there are many students actually successfully stay. Of course, you can find many examples that, if you, after graduation, you cannot find a job, and then, of course, very quickly, the legal status will expire, then you have to go back. But on the other hand, there are many successful examples that people stay.
And the next question is, just mentioned that Dr. Sapra, yes, the Professor Steve, has 20 years career working experiences in industry, but still would like to be a full-time professor in USC. Would you mind let us know the reason, and will you prefer the applicants with working experiences? Thank you.
Well, I've always, as I mentioned, I've always kept a foot in academia. So I've been teaching at USC on and off since 2010. I had worked in industry for a long time, had a successful career, and I was just at a point in my life where I felt like I wanted to go and give back. So I view this more as giving back to the community. And that's really, I enjoy helping students. I enjoy mentoring students and helping people. And joining USC's faculty felt like a great way to do that. I think the second question was, do we prefer students with industry background? No. Some MBA programs prefer that. They want you to have a couple of years work experience, but our program doesn't require that. And Jin, I don't believe it's that much.
No, we don't require any working experience. It's not the requirement at all. We don't even look at it. We pay strong attention to the knowledge structure, mathematical background.
The next question is, what's the GPA requirement to apply for the program? Thank you.
That's a very good question. The GPA requirement is 3.0. There is a reason. I can say a little bit more because it's a graduate program, and we take the students who will take courses from, for example, FBE courses in the martial school. The martial school has usually all the graduate courses have two requirements. One is the GPA requirements. The other one is the prerequisite. Because it's a graduate program. Some graduate courses requires that you have some previous knowledge on the subject, so it's called the prerequisite. But the prerequisite requirement can be waived. But I don't think Marshall will lower the GPA requirement. So if you don't have a sufficient GPA, then you cannot take courses from some departments. So that's why we put the minimum GPA as 3.0. But we have applicants with 3.7, 4.0, a lot of very high GPA, undergraduate GPAs. Yeah, it's not unusual to have very high, but we don't go usually on the 3.0 because they will have some difficulties when they enter the program.
The next question is, to my understanding, MF program is math and econ focused. Is there another way to pursue PhD in math or econ after complete MF program? Thank you, professors.
Yes, you can. Many students go on to PhD program either in USC or in other school. Go to other school. I personally have two previous PhD students who were actually from the math finance program, but many of the students actually went on to not necessarily USC because they can have many other choices for the PhD program in the country. Yeah, but definitely this is one the technical knowledge that we provided through the program is very good if you are thinking about doing research in the quantitative finance field.
Thank you. And we also have some questions from our live streaming platforms. And one question is, my target is to work in investment bank in US. What is the finance industry in California look like now compared with Wall Street in New York City? Thank you.
I mean, there's a couple things I would say. Number one, investment banking is usually not they usually don't look for MFEs or masters in financial math students. So the typical investment banking work is not that quantitative in nature. You're generally dealing with spreadsheets, you're dealing with accounting. It's very much a relationship type of business. So if you're interested in going into investment banking, the more technical programs may not be what you need. I would probably steer you more toward an MBA degree. With respect to the New York versus California question, most of the jobs are going to be on the East Coast. There are certainly investment banking jobs on the West Coast, especially if you are technology focused. There's a lot of jobs in California, particularly Northern California and Silicon Valley in technology and investment banking. But I would say the majority of investment banking jobs are still probably on the West Coast, New York, Boston area.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, what is your suggestion to prepare for CFA test? Is there any support or resource in the MF program? Thank you.
We don't prepare students for a CFA exam, but I know people, our students in the past, took the fourth semester only to participate in the CFA. The program by design, the curriculum by design is not focusing on helping people to take the exam, but I think the general knowledge that we provide will help. We do have students take a CFA exam. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Well, I would just make a comment on the CFA exam. It is a good thing to have, especially if you have a more technical training. If you have an MBA, I don't think you really need a CFA, but I think it is very helpful if you have a more technical background, because the CFA is kind of like an MBA. It's a broad set of skills that you acquire in taking the CFA exam. It is a lot of work. I did it early in my life. It's a lot of studying, a lot of training, but you're not going to get a lot of help from the MFE programs or the math finance programs. You really do have to kind of study on your own. But it is a good designation to attain if you can do it.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, some of the skills of storytelling may be helpful for our students to enhance the skills in
this is the presentation skill.
Yeah.
It's always helpful if you can find a convincing way to deliver your idea.
Yes.
Or sell your products. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Presentation skills are quite important. They're not absolutely essential. There's certainly jobs that don't require presentation skills. But I think if you have the ability to present coherently and well, that it opens up a lot of doors for you. And I would also say the ability to read the room is really important, because if you work for a large, complex organization, the most senior people that you encounter probably are not that technical in nature. And so if you go in there speaking tech jargon, you're going to lose them immediately. So it's a good way to not get promoted, to go into a bunch of non-technical senior people and start talking about econometrics and standard deviation. So I think the ability to read the room is important, and I think being able to present is important, but I think, obviously not everybody is good at that, and that's okay. And there's plenty of jobs that don't require presentation skills, but if you can do it, it certainly is quite helpful.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And the next question is, how about our tuition fee? Are there any scholarships provided in the program? Thank you.
Unfortunately, no. For a master program, we don't have a financial aid, or none of the master programs has. For PhD, of course, you can have a fellowship and a TA, but for master program, unfortunately, we don't.
Thank you. And the next question is, when is the deadline for the master's application for 2024 circle? Thank you.
Oh, okay. So this is one thing that I was thinking about saying in the closing, as a reminder of the closing comments. So there are two for the fall semester every year. For the fall semester application, the deadline is February 15th. For the spring admission, the deadline is the October 15th, the previous year. So that's the two main dates that you might want to just remember. One is October 15th for the spring admission and February 15th for the fall admission.
Thank you very much. And we can still see one question from our Zoom chat box. May I ask the proportion of Chinese students in your program and their employment situation after come back to China? Thank you.
Okay, for the first question, let me say a lot. The second question, after they went back to China, many of them, I believe, have a very good job. I still have some alumni and are contacting me. They are, obviously doing very well. But we don't have the data because I think it's the social media. The only thing that we can probably trace our students are LinkedIn. You probably in China, you have some similar to LinkedIn. You have somewhere to upgrade your status, the professional status, so other people can see. But for us, the one that from the US side we can see is only LinkedIn. But not everybody updated their status in LinkedIn, so sometimes we just lost track. But as far as my personal knowledge is, many people found good job. Some of them now the level management.
Thank you very much. And the next question is, may I ask, since the rigorous grading in Hong Kong in my school, where only 6 out of approximately 200 students in the department attained a ultimate GPA above 3.6 out of 4.3. I took part in an exchange program at a university in USA, where I achieved a GPA more than 3.7. I'm curious if admissions officers would give greater consideration to my academic performance during the exchange program at the university in America. Thank you.
3.6, 3.7 are very good. To me, during the admission process, they are considered as equivalent, as good. So we don't compare the candidates by those digital number. We look at the overall picture. If you have a 3.6 and 3.7, 3.5, they're all as good, the same as good. But it's just the only thing that we have a hard line is 3.0. If you're below that, then we have some concern because it's not because there are many reasons you have the lower GPA, but for us, it's with that number, you might have difficulty after entering the program in registering courses or something. There's technical reasons. But on the other hand, we have enough, a lot of candidates who already have, good GPAs. 3.6, 3.7 are equally good.
Thank you. And our last question is, will MF program leads me to fintech industry? Thank you.
Yeah, I would say the question is, do we train for the fintech industry? Is that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, I mean, the fintech industry is almost by definition technical in nature, right? You're dealing with things that are much more automated, that are algorithmic. And so the type of training that we provide is ideal for those types of jobs.
I think there is element in the programming skills things that I said the program does not train for that, but the students coming in with the different skill set under other program skills. Some of them have 5, 6 very good language like a Python, R, C, C++, and also Stata or a lot of fancy things. but some of them, like the math major, they usually have one or two. So once you graduate, when you enter this, it's not the main focus of the program, but when you go out, and I think your skill on the programming side will actually show up. Will show. If you are strong in that regard, then you have will have some natural benefit of it.
Thank you very much. And actually, we saw some comments about our Professor Jin. They said they were your students before. So our alumni, our students are also watching our today's webinar through our live streaming.
Good to see you again.
Very wonderful.
Excellent. Excellent. Great to see everybody.
Yeah.
And once again, thanks to our guest speaker, Professor Jin and Professor Steve. And for the last part of our session, could you please give some advice or suggestion to our potential students and the audience who are interested in mathematical finance program? Thank you.
So up to this point, I think if you are not already new to the program, you probably have some good idea about what our program is and is about, and know the math finance program at USC or USC in general. I wouldn't say I have any more advice to you, but I hope that after this discussion, you somehow grow some interest in pursuing a master degree in this direction. And another thing that I want to say is that the LA is a fun place to be, as many of the former students probably can testify. Besides the La La Land nature as you see from the movie, and one thing that you can we are easily access to the desert, to the ocean, and to the snow mountain, in 2 hours of driving, depending on which direction you take. So it's a fun place to be. Also, the one thing that I mentioned, that don't forget the application deadline. Also, another thing is that you can directly apply to the math finance program through the website, and also you can apply through the International Academy, where our host is, I think, belong to.
Well, I don't know if I have any advice per se, but we're excited about the program. We're looking for good students who are eager to learn and to contribute. If you like what you hear and you think this is something that's of interest to you, we would certainly encourage you to apply. I guess one thing I would say is, and you probably gathered this from my comments already, and that is that I do think that sometimes these programs can give the perception that finance is engineering. And finance is not engineering. There are certain aspects of finance that are engineering, but most of finance is not engineering. And I think if you have an artistic interest, if you have a creative interest, I think these things are very valuable in finance. The ability to think creatively, the ability to think outside of the box, the ability to think about problems beyond a set of equations and utilize equations as tools, but not necessarily the sacrosanct truth. I think people who can marry these two worlds are ripe for success in this industry. And so if you join our program, you'll certainly get plenty of technical training, probably more than you could ever imagine. But I would encourage you to also try and think creatively about how you might solve problems in the world. So that would be my 2 cents.
Thank you. Thank you very much.